You're watching The Weekly Late Show on BBNBC. I'm your host, Bertie Betts. BBNBC, of course, stands for the Bertie Betts National Broadcasting Company, the second fakest news network. Twitter has limited Don Jr.'s account. That must be one of the most humiliating things on the planet. Twitter is where the trolls of the internet live. And they don't limit those one bit, but they did limit Don Jr.'s account. I am upset a little bit because of this, because if it's that easy to limit an account, why don't they just limit Trump's account? Also, Twitter, if you're watching this, can you please limit I Eat Cheese 308? He's been giving me a very hard time. I would tell you about the hearing with William Barr, but now it's actually illegal to have bars open, and I think it should be no different with this one. William Barr is like if Droopy Dog was depressed, and Droopy Dog alone is a depressed animation character. The coronavirus has reached another gruesome milestone, a phrase that we are all too familiar with saying. The coronavirus has reached 150,000 cases in the US. That's a lot of cases, but something that's crazier is that here in California, everybody's like, you know what, we can open up. The virus has never been worse, okay? Now that it's getting worse, y'all like, we can be socially distant. No, close everything down. Come on, Newsom, you can be better than that. Fauci said that the MLB doesn't need to stop despite the outbreaks. But again, you gotta remember this is coming from the world's biggest baseball fan. I bet if 50% of the MLB came down with the virus, he would have advocated for it to stay open. And you know how I know Fauci is the biggest MLB fan in the world? Because if I had an arm like this, I wouldn't even think about throwing out the first pitch. You have to be fair that Trump kind of just dropped it on top of him, but he still agreed to it, and he looked kind of excited. I bet Fauci was running around the White House like, can you believe what's happened? Trump is not throwing out the first pitch. I get to do it. And Trump's like, you know what, Fauci, I'm so proud of you, so proud. Democratic candidate Joe Biden, or I think it's safe to say President Joe Biden, is beating Trump in pretty much all the polls conducted, including the one that Trump read right before he tweeted that the election should be postponed. The election is going to be happening in less than 100 days, and the next day, 1/3 of America will buy new TVs. So people who live in Texas, I recommend you buy the TVs a day ahead of time, because it's going to be like Black Friday in there without the deals. And there'll be fights, except for the fights won't be about toilet paper, but about TVs. Bill Gates bashed the COVID-19 test, saying, quote, it was too slow. But I'm a little suspicious because right afterwards he bashed the fact that they were using Chrome and told them to switch to Windows. But Bill is literally the nicest billionaire. He is concerned over the entire population, even though it really doesn't affect him. If he wanted a vacation, he could just buy Puerto Rico, and if he wanted a burger, he could just buy an entire dairy farm. He really has nothing to worry about. People are upset that Peter Rabbit has a allergy scene where the bunny's gang up against a human by throwing raspberries at him, and he's allergic to raspberries. But for some reason, it didn't seem to bother anybody that a Starbucks cup and coffee made it to the final scene of Game of Thrones. There is a new definition of disgusting in the dictionary, and it shows a man wearing 2 masks. Here. Yeah, it was pretty bad when he opened his mouth and ate something, but there's actually a way to top this in the category of disgustingness. If the man in the video was William Barr, we were actually lucky enough to obtain the footage. Enjoy. Yeah, imagine if William Barr came to Capitol Hill like that, talking all trashy. Well, actually, you don't really have to imagine it. You can just watch the testimony. That may mark a historical milestone. A first, where Nancy Pelosi had absolutely nothing to say. You're watching The Weekly Late Show on BBNBC. I'm your host, Bertie Betts.